Rain clawed at the city like it wanted in. Seoul glimmered under the storm, the kind of night that made even saints look guilty in neon light. Down an alley off Cheongdam-dong, Aisha Mensah pressed a trembling hand to her ribs, breath hitching with pain she refused to show. Her umbrella was gone, snatched by the wind or maybe by fate, and the puddles around her shimmered with the reflections of luxury she could never afford. Until tonight. "Get up!" a voice hissed behind her. The man she once loved stood over her, the rain slicking his hair to his skull, anger sharp enough to cut glass. "Get up, Aisha, before someone sees you crawling." She rose slowly, every muscle shaking. "You shouldn't be here, Ko-Hanel." He smiled the way wolves do when the cage door opens. "You owe me 5,000,001 in 3 years of my time. I came to collect." She laughed, broken and raw. "You mean the money you stole, or the heart you threw away?" The back of his hand flashed faster than lightning. Her head snapped sideways, copper filled her mouth. Somewhere above them, thunder applauded. And then the world shifted. A black sedan screeched to a stop at the mouth of the alley. 2 men stepped out first, silent, suited, the kind of presence that warned every bystander to pretend blindness. Behind them, a tall figure emerged, coat whipping in the wind like it answered only to him. Lee Jun-seok. Even drenched, power clung to him like a second skin. Every movement measured. Every breath calculated. He didn't belong in this gutter any more than angels belong in hell, yet here he was, eyes fixed on Aisha. "What happened?" His voice was smooth, but the calm was a disguise. "She fell," Hanel snapped. "Mind your own," Jun-seok's gaze sliced through him. "Did she?" Silence swallowed the alley. Aisha could feel electricity crawl across her skin. The guards waited for a word. She shook her head quickly. "It's fine, please don't." "Miss Mensah," Jun-seok said softly, "you're bleeding." "I said I'm fine." "You're lying." Hanel stepped closer. "She's my business, not yours." In a blink, Jun-seok's hand moved, a blur of restrained violence. He caught Hanel by the wrist, twisting until bone popped. The scream was swallowed by thunder. Jun-seok leaned close, voice almost tender. "Touch her again and you'll need a new hand to sin with." He released him. Hanel crumpled, clutching his arm, eyes wide with disbelief at the quiet menace standing before him. "Get in the car," Jun-seok told Aisha without looking back. She hesitated, torn between pride and survival. Rainwater slid down her cheek like tears she refused to cry. When Hanel spat at her feet, the decision made itself. She followed Jun-seok. The car's interior smelled of leather and cedarwood. Seoul's chaos blurred past the tinted glass while Aisha pressed tissue to her split lip. "You shouldn't have done that," she muttered. "Now he won't do anything again." Jun-seok's tone made the air heavier. "Where do you live?" She gave an address. He entered it into the console but didn't start the car. "That area isn't safe for tonight. You'll stay somewhere secure." "I can't afford anywhere secure, mister." "Lee Jun-seok," he supplied, "and you won't pay a one." "I'm not a charity case." "Good," he said. "Then consider this an investment." She turned toward him. "In what?" His gaze flicked to her blood-stained blouse. "In potential." The penthouse sat above the Han River, all glass and silence. Inside, warmth wrapped around her like disbelief. A maid handed her a towel and disappeared. Jun-seok shrugged off his coat, the wet fabric landing with a thud. "I'll have the doctor look at that cut," he said. "You have a doctor on call for strangers. For emergencies." He poured himself a drink, the amber liquid catching the city light. "And you looked like one," she bristled. "You don't even know me." "I know enough." He handed her the glass instead. "Drink." The burn steadied her shaking hands. "Why did you help me?" "Because the world enjoys watching women break," he said quietly. "I don't." Something about the way he said it, flat, final, made her wonder what he'd seen to make him sound that tired. When the doctor arrived, Jun-seok vanished into another room. Aisha tried not to flinch as antiseptic stung her cheek. "He's intense," the doctor murmured, as if reading her thoughts. "But not cruel. That's rare for a man like him." "A man like what?" The doctor only smiled. "You'll learn soon enough." 2 days later, she did. Aisha woke to the sound of the elevator doors opening. Voices, low, urgent, spilled into the hall. She peeked through the glass balustrade and saw Jun-seok speaking to 3 men in suits. The air crackled with hierarchy. "Who leaked it?" he asked. "Not sure yet, sir, but the chairman's death file, it's gone." A beat of silence. Then softly, "Find it before sunrise." When the men left, she stepped into view. "Death file." He didn't startle, nothing rattled him. "Work." "Dangerous work." He studied her. "Do you scare easily?" "I'm African," she said with a wry smile. "We grow up surviving storms." For the first time, he smiled back, a real one, brief and devastating. Then maybe you'll last longer than most. By the end of the week, her bruise had faded, but her curiosity hadn't. She learned Jun-seok owned half of LYN Group, the other half divided among relatives who hated him. Rumor said he'd inherited his father's empire after a car explosion 5 years ago. Officially, accident. Unofficially, assassination. She also learned he painted. One night she followed faint jazz into a hidden studio. Canvases leaned against walls, dark, violent, beautiful, storms and fire and eyes that looked too much like his own. "You weren't supposed to see this," he said from the doorway. She turned. "You paint pain." "I paint truth. You're terrible at hiding it. So are you." He crossed the room, stopping inches away. "Who hurt you before tonight?" She froze. "You already know." "I know what he did, not what it cost." Her throat tightened. "Everything." His hand rose, then stopped midway, as if touching her would set something irreversible in motion. "Then let me give some of it back." It began as protection. It became proximity. Jun-seok insisted she remain in the penthouse until the threat settles. Every morning, a different guard waited outside her door. Every night he returned later, quieter, darker. Aisha started sketching him without meaning to, his silhouette by the window, the way his hands trembled when he thought no one saw. She didn't understand why he affected her like this. He was all steel and restraint, yet when he looked at her, she felt seen down to the marrow. One night, thunder rolled across the river, and the lights flickered. She found him on the balcony, shirt undone at the collar, cigarette burning between elegant fingers. "You ever miss being ordinary?" she asked. He exhaled smoke into the rain. "I was never ordinary, my father made sure of that." "What happened to him?" Jun-seok's jaw tightened. "He died believing I betrayed him." "Did you?" His eyes met hers. "Would you hate me if I said yes?" "I'd want to know why." He turned back to the storm. "Then maybe one day I'll tell you." 3 weeks later, the world crashed through their door. It started with the sound of shattering glass, again that omen of endings. Gunfire echoed through the penthouse hall. A guard's shout cut short. Jun-seok grabbed Aisha, pulling her behind the marble island. "Stay down," he ordered, drawing a pistol from under the counter. Her pulse roared in her ears. "Who are they?" "People who think I killed the wrong man." Bullets tore through glass, the skyline glittered with chaos. Jun-seok returned fire, movements precise, efficient. Within minutes, silence fell again, terrible and complete. He checked the hall, then crouched beside her. "You all right?" She nodded, shaking. "You said the threat had settled." "I lied. For my safety, for my sanity." He stood, blood on his sleeve. "Pack a bag, we're leaving." "Where?" "Somewhere they can't reach us." And for the first time, she saw fear flicker behind his calm. They drove south through the night, headlights cutting tunnels in the fog. Hours later, they stopped at a seaside villa in Busan, glass walls, endless ocean, the kind of place built for isolation. Aisha stared at the dark horizon. "You planned this." "Contingency," he said. "Every war needs an escape route." "What war are we fighting, Jun-seok?" "The kind that decides who owns the truth." He poured whiskey, offered her a glass. "You should rest." "I can't," she whispered. "Not until you tell me why I'm really here." He looked at her for a long time, then said, "Because someone wants you dead to get to me." Her glass slipped, shattering against the floor. "Why me?" "Because you were the last person my father called before his car exploded." For a long time, neither of them spoke. Only the sea did, slamming against the cliff like it was trying to warn them. Aisha's voice finally broke the silence. "You think I had something to do with his death?" "No." Jun-seok poured another drink he didn't touch. "But someone wants me to believe you did." She took a step back. "You said your father died 5 years ago. I didn't even live in Korea then." "That's what makes it perfect," he said quietly. "You're a ghost they can use." Aisha's mind spun. "Who would send your father's call record to me?" He turned to the window. Rain blurred the glass until city and sea became one smear of gray. "My uncle. He's been waiting for an excuse to finish what he started." "You mean?" "The explosion." His jaw tightened. "It was never an accident." They spent the next day in silence. He worked behind closed doors, phone calls in Korean she couldn't follow. She painted to keep from shaking. Each brushstroke came out jagged, frantic. By nightfall, she couldn't stand it anymore. She found him in the library, the only light a single lamp. "You need to tell me everything," she said. He looked up from the stack of files. "You wouldn't sleep if I did." "I'm not sleeping anyway." He studied her a long moment, then gestured for her to sit. "My father built LYN Group from nothing. My uncle wanted control. When father refused to launder money for him, the car exploded on the bridge to Incheon. They called it a gas leak. I called it betrayal." And me? You were working at the charity that handled my father's last donations. The phone records show he called that number seconds before the blast. Her heart stopped. He called the donations office. Yes. But the number was redirected to yours. I didn't even have that phone then, she whispered. I bought it 2 years ago in Seoul. Exactly. His eyes darkened. Someone changed the data to point to you. Why? To get to me, because they know I protect what's mine. The words slipped out like a confession. For the next few weeks, the villa became their world, a quiet battlefield of proximity. He set guards at every entrance, cameras on every tree. She tried to paint, but the colors came out wrong. Too much red, not enough air. He hardly slept. She heard him packing the hall at 3 a.m., the sound of a man who'd learned that love and danger shared the same heartbeat. One dawn, she found him on the beach, barefoot in the tide, staring at nothing. You keep saving me, she said behind him, but I'm the reason they're hunting you. He turned slowly. The sunrise caught the exhaustion under his eyes. I don't save you to feel noble, Aisha. I save you because I don't know how not to. She took a step closer. That sounds like a cage. Then I'm the one locked inside. The distance between them vanished. The sea roared, jealous of their silence. His hand rose, hesitated, then finally touched her cheek. You make me forget who I am, he said. Maybe that's what you need to survive. When he kissed her, it wasn't gentle. It was years of repression snapping at once, salt, rain, regret. But even as her hands tangled in his shirt, she felt the tremor in his chest. Fear, not of her, of what this would cost. They pretended afterward that nothing had changed. Breakfasts were quiet, formal, yet every glance across the table sparked like flint. Then the threat came again, this time by air. A drone hovered outside the villa at dusk, a metallic hum over the sea. A red light blinked against the window. Aisha froze. Jun-seok moved faster than thought, dragging her to the floor. The explosion shattered every pane of glass on the north wall. When the smoke cleared, he was already barking orders into his phone. Move her now, they found us. Found us, she gasped. Pack nothing, we leave in 10. Where? Home, he said grimly. Where devils hide in daylight. They arrived in Seoul before sunrise. This time he didn't take her to the penthouse. He took her beneath it. The elevator opened to a world she hadn't imagined, steel corridors, screens flickering with satellite maps, men and women in suits who bowed when he entered. Is this your office? She asked, awed. This is the part of my empire the board pretends doesn't exist. Your shadow world. Exactly. He led her into a glass chamber. On one wall glowed a digital image, a familiar face, her own. Underneath, Target 3 contact leverage confirmed. Aisha's stomach dropped. They've been watching me. For months. She turned on him. And you still think keeping me near you helps? I can't protect you if you run. I'm not asking for protection, Jun-seok. I'm asking for truth. He looked like a man balancing on the edge of a blade. The truth is that I'm losing control of my company, of the city, of myself. She stepped closer. Then let me help. He almost laughed. You don't even know what I'm fighting. I know loneliness when I see it. Something in him cracked. His voice dropped to a whisper. If you stay, you'll see the worst of me. Maybe that's the only way to see the real you. The next morning, a new player entered the game. Chairman Yoon Byung-ho, Jun-seok's uncle, summoned him to a private meeting at the Imperial Hotel. Jun-seok wanted to refuse. Aisha insisted on going. I started this mess, she said. I'm not hiding. He didn't argue, which frightened her more than if he had. The hotel's suite reeked of money and menace. The old man waited by the window, his cane polished to a mirror shine. Still rescuing strays, nephew, the chairman said. You always did have a weakness for women with sad eyes. Aisha stiffened. Jun-seok's hand brushed hers under the table, a silent warning. Don't react. Byung-ho smiled. I see you've discovered the call record. Clever. Shame it's already served its purpose. What purpose? To distract you while I took everything else. He tossed a folder onto the table. Inside were documents transferring majority control of LYN Group to shell companies under his name. You forged my signature, Jun-seok said. Correction, I perfected it. The chairman leaned forward, voice dripping poison. You can keep the girl, I'll take the empire, fair trade. Jun-seok's eyes went glacial. You'll regret breathing those words. Then hurry, boy, you're running out of time. That night they hid in a safe house above Itaewon. Aisha could feel the fury rolling off him like heat. You can fight him legally, can't you? She asked. He laughed bitter. He owns the courts, the police, half the ministry. Justice in this country is just paperwork for the powerful. Then expose him, make the world watch. He stared at her as if the idea were foreign. You think light can survive in this darkness? You're proof that it can. He turned away, jaw clenched. You're wrong, I'm part of it. Then burn it from the inside. He looked at her like she'd handed him a weapon he'd forgotten he possessed. 3 nights later, the plan began. She would paint. He would weaponize art. Using her new exhibition as cover, they staged a gala to unveil her latest series, paintings that secretly contained coded ledgers proving Byung-ho's corruption. Every guest was a journalist, investor, or enemy waiting to smile for the cameras. The night glittered with danger disguised as luxury. Aisha stood in crimson silk, the wound on her side hidden beneath couture. Jun-seok hovered near the entrance, every movement a calculation. When the chairman arrived, photographers swarmed. The air smelled of perfume and gun oil. Beautiful work, Byung-ho said to Aisha, his tone oily. You paint like someone who's seen death. Maybe I just paint what power looks like when it bleeds, she replied. He smiled thinly. Careful, dear. Power doesn't bleed, it feeds. The lights dimmed for her speech. Cameras rolled. Aisha's voice was steady, though her hands shook behind the podium. These paintings are about truth, she said, and how it survives even when buried. At her signal, Jun-seok's team triggered the coded projection. Hidden within the artwork, financial ledgers lit up across the walls, names, transactions, offshore accounts. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Byung-ho's smile died. Game over, Jun-seok whispered. Security lunged, but it was too late. Every journalist's phone was already streaming live. The empire was crumbling in real time. Then the first shot rang out. Chaos, screams, glass raining from chandeliers. Aisha dropped behind the podium as Jun-seok dragged her to cover. The old man's guards returned fire. The gala turned war zone. When the smoke cleared, Byung-ho was gone, and so was the flash drive containing the original data. Backup, she asked, coughing. Encrypted off-site, he said. But without that drive, proving authenticity is harder. So we chase him, he shook his head. No, he'll come to us. Why? Because he never leaves loose ends. Outside, sirens wailed, real or fake, they couldn't tell. Aisha pressed her hand to Jun-seok's chest, feeling his heart hammer like thunder trapped in a cage. This isn't over, she whispered. No, he said. It's only the beginning. At dawn, news exploded across every network. LYN Group under investigation. Stock freefall. Arrest warrants rumored. But the chairman still lived, and power rarely dies clean. That morning, Aisha found a note slipped under the safe house door. If you want him to survive this, come alone to Namsan Tower tonight. No signature, just a red fingerprint. She read it 3 times, her pulse growing louder with each line. When Jun-seok entered, she hid the paper behind her back. You didn't sleep, he said. Neither did you. He tried to smile, failed. Once this is done, maybe we'll both rest. She nodded, heart already breaking with the lie she was planning. That night she went alone. The city glittered beneath Namsan Tower, too beautiful for betrayal. The elevator ride up felt endless. When the doors opened, the viewing deck was empty except for a single table and a recording phone. She pressed play. Jun-seok's voice filled the silence. Aisha, if you're hearing this, they got to you first. Don't believe anything they say about me. And whatever happens, don't run, because running only makes you easier to find. Then the phone cut to static, and the lights went out. Footsteps behind her. A whisper. You should have stayed in the cage. The voice behind her was low, almost gentle, but wrong in every way. Aisha turned slowly. Byung-ho's head of security, Kang Di-sung, stood a few meters away, gun loose at his side, smile too calm for someone who just cut the power. You look disappointed, he said. Were you expecting the prince instead of the executioner? Her pulse stuttered. What do you want? You, and the pretty mess you've made of his heart. He circled her like a shark. The chairman says love makes the powerful stupid. Seems he was right. I don't know what you think I've done. He tilted his head. You've made him human, that's the worst crime of all. A door clanged somewhere below them, metal on metal. Di-sung's smile vanished. Too late, he murmured. The elevator doors exploded open. Jun-seok burst through smoke, pistol drawn, suit ripped, eyes wild with panic and fury. Get away from her. The guard raised his weapon, but Jun-seok fired first. Di-sung crumpled without ceremony. Silence crashed back in. Jun-seok's chest heaved. I told you not to come alone. Aisha's hands shook. I couldn't let them use me against you. You already have, he whispered. He crossed the deck, grabbed her wrist, and pulled her toward the elevator. Need to move now. Wait, look. She pointed to the floor. Di-sung's phone screen still glowed. A message half-typed, package delivered. Target alive, proceed with phase 2. Phase 2, she asked. He read the rest and went still. It's not over, they planted something. The explosion hit seconds later. Glass shattered, the tower swayed. Fire roared up the stairwell, devouring oxygen. Alarms screamed. Jun-seok threw his coat over her, dragged her through smoke toward the maintenance exit. Keep your head down. Metal groaned. A beam fell, clipping his shoulder. He stumbled but didn't stop. The emergency door burst open to wind and rain. A helicopter's rotors cut the night above the tower roof, a spotlight blinding them. "Get in!" he shouted. "But now, Aisha." Climbed aboard, coughing, skin singed by heat. He followed, blood streaking his sleeve. As the chopper lifted off, the tower collapsed beneath them in a storm of flame. For a long time, neither spoke. The pilot flew low over the Han River, the city glittering beneath like broken glass. Finally, Aisha touched his arm. "You're hurt." He shook his head. "It's nothing." "It's not nothing." She tore fabric from her sleeve, pressed it against the wound. He hissed but didn't move away. "You saved me," she said softly. He looked at her, eyes unreadable. "No, you keep surviving despite me. Stop saying that. It's true, every time I pull you into my world, it tries to kill you." She met his gaze. "Then maybe I belong here more than you think." He smiled faintly, a rare, cracked thing. "Careful, you sound like me." They landed on a remote estate in Gangwon-do, surrounded by pine forest and silence. Inside, the air smelled of cedar and antiseptic. A doctor stitched his shoulder while Aisha paced, anger and relief tangling inside her. When the doctor left, she turned on him. "You lied to me again." "About what?" "You knew this wasn't over, you knew they'd come for you." "I thought I could end it before they reached you." "How heroic," she said bitterly, "and stupid." He exhaled, leaning back against the chair. "You think I like living like this, counting exits every time I walk into a room? I think you've made vengeance your oxygen. And you've made forgiveness yours." The words cut deep. She turned away, tears stinging. "I'm not forgiving anyone, I'm just trying to live." "Then teach me how." She froze. His voice wasn't sharp now, it was small, almost boyish. He rose slowly, crossed to her, and touched her jaw. "When I lost my father, I promised myself I'd never need anyone again. Then you happened." Her throat tightened. "I don't know how to save you, Jun-seok. You already are." His kiss tasted of blood and surrender. Morning came gray and heavy. The television in the living room blared headlines. Chairman Yoon missing after tower explosion, police suspect internal coup. Jun-seok watched silently. "He's not dead," Aisha said. "You'd feel it if he were." He didn't answer. The phone rang, encrypted line. He answered, listened, then turned to her with a face drained of color. "That was my lawyer. They found a survivor from the blast, my uncle's driver. Does he know who planted the bomb? He says my uncle wasn't at the tower when it exploded." Her brow furrowed. "Then who was?" Jun-seok's expression darkened. "Someone wearing his ring." She frowned. "You think it was staged?" He nodded slowly. "A double, he wanted the world to think he died, which means he's still pulling the strings from somewhere no one's looking." "Where?" Jun-seok met her eyes. "Abroad, and he didn't leave empty-handed." He opened a secure file on his tablet. Dozens of images, bank records, shipment manifests, coded messages. At the center of every transaction was one name, Mensah Holdings. Her breath caught. "That's my father's company." "I know. That's impossible, he died when I was 12. "Apparently not." She felt the room tilt. "You're saying my father and your uncle were partners once," Jun-seok finished. "And when my father tried to pull out of a deal 20 years ago, your father disappeared." "No, I didn't want to believe it either, but the money trail says otherwise. He's alive, Aisha, or he was until 6 months ago." Her knees weakened. He caught her before she fell. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" she whispered. "Because I only confirmed it last night, and because the moment you know, you become the target, not me." "So what now?" "We find him before Byung-ho does." The search dragged them into the underbelly of Busan, shipyards, warehouses, smoke-stained offices where secrets were currency. Every lead cost money and blood. Every truth came wrapped in another lie. Finally, after days of dead ends, they found her father's trail at an abandoned textile factory near the docks. Inside, the air reeked of dust and diesel. A laptop still hummed on a table, screen filled with coded data. Aisha touched a photo pinned beside it, 2 men shaking hands, her father and Byung-ho, 20 years younger. She was right, a voice said behind them. They turned. Byung-ho stepped out of the shadows, cane tapping softly, alive and smiling. "You always were your father's daughter." Aisha's breath caught. "You, still breathing, unfortunately for my enemies, yes." Jun-seok raised his gun. "This ends tonight. Put that away, boy, you won't shoot your own blood." "I have none left." Byung-ho chuckled. Still so dramatic. Your father would have admired your flair for martyrdom. Say his name again, Jun-seok warned, and you'll lose your tongue. Ah, filial devotion. The old man's smile widened. You never asked why he died, did you? I know enough. No, you don't. He gestured toward Aisha. Ask her. Jun-seok frowned. What? Byung-ho leaned on his cane. Her father killed your father. The words detonated like gunfire. Aisha shook her head violently. He's lying. Am I? The old man asked. Your father and I built an empire smuggling artifacts through African ports. When my brother discovered the operation, your father planted the bomb that killed him. Jun-seok's face went white. Stop. He thought it would look like my doing, and it almost worked until your mother called me. Liar, Aisha cried. Byung-ho's gaze softened, almost pitying. She begged me to spare you, child, said you were innocent, so I did, until your name appeared on that call log. Aisha felt the room collapse around her. No, he's twisting everything. Jun-seok's gun wavered. Tell me he's lying, he whispered. I don't know, she choked. I don't remember I was a child. You expect me to believe. Stop, she screamed. You think you're the only one who lost family. Her tears came hot, furious. I lost mine to your world. Whatever our fathers did, it's not us. Byung-ho clapped slowly. Beautiful speech. You should have been an actress. Then he pressed a button on his cane. A hidden panel in the wall slid open, revealing a man bound to a chair, bruised, barely conscious. Aisha's scream tore the air. Papa! Her father's eyes fluttered open. Aisha, run! Gunfire erupted. Jun-seok dove forward, firing back. Byung-ho ducked behind machinery. Sparks rained. The room filled with smoke and panic. A bullet grazed Jun-seok's side. He stumbled but kept shooting. Aisha crawled to her father, fumbling with the ropes. Hold on, I'm here. He gripped her wrist weakly. Don't trust. The shot cut him off. His body went limp. She froze, staring at the blood spreading under her hands. No! Jun-seok's roar shattered what little sanity remained. He lunged at his uncle, both of them crashing into metal crates. The cane clattered away. Byung-ho slashed with a hidden blade. Jun-seok caught his wrist, twisted, drove it into his chest. The old man gasped once, eyes wide, then fell. Silence. Only the sea outside, roaring its approval. Aisha knelt beside her father's body, numb. He was still breathing, she whispered. Jun-seok staggered toward her, blood soaking his side. We need to go. She didn't move. You killed him. He was going to kill you. Eyes rose empty. He was my only family left, and he murdered mine. They stared at each other, two survivors bound by love and ruin. Finally she stood. Then we're both orphans again. She walked past him through the smoke and rain. He didn't stop her. Couldn't. He found her hours later at the pier, barefoot, her dress stained with blood and sea salt. She didn't turn when he spoke. I buried him beside the cliffs. Thank you, she said without emotion. The police will come soon. I can protect you. She laughed softly. From what? The truth. He stepped closer. From myself. She turned then, eyes red but steady. Maybe I don't want protection anymore. Maybe I want peace. He reached for her, stopped inches away. And if peace means leaving me, then you'll let me go. I can't. Then we're already doomed. Lightning split the horizon, illuminating their faces, two souls caught between salvation and sin. I love you, he said. Then let me walk away before love turns into another war. She brushed past him, disappearing into the rain. For weeks, Seoul whispered about the scandal. Dead chairman, vanished heir, international investigations. No one mentioned the artist who disappeared the same night. But somewhere beyond the city, in a fishing village by the southern coast, a woman painted in silence. Her canvases were filled with storms and broken wings. And one night, when she looked up from her work, she found an envelope on her doorstep. Inside, a photograph, a grave on a cliff marked Yoon Dongmin Jun-seok's father. On the back, a message in familiar handwriting. He wasn't the only one who died that night. A drop of blood stained the corner fresh. Aisha's breath caught. Jun-seok! Outside, thunder rolled again. The rain didn't stop for 3 days. It soaked the little coastal town until the streets ran like veins of silver. Aisha hardly noticed. Every hour she repainted the same face, the man she'd left bleeding in a warehouse full of ghosts. By the 4th dawn, she couldn't stand the stillness anymore. She packed one small bag and boarded a train back to Seoul. Each station she passed felt like a heartbeat she might never get back. The city hadn't forgiven him, but it hadn't forgotten her either. Headlines screamed of missing millions, of power shifting hands like loaded dice. The world believed Jun-seok was dead, another casualty of a dynasty that devoured its own. Aisha knew better. Grave in the photo was real, but the handwriting, his meant he was alive, somewhere. She followed the only trail she had, a contact listed under an old alias of his, Mr. Han. The address led to a derelict temple clinging to the edge of Buckhanson Mountain. Inside, candles burned low, casting bruised light on cracked stone. A voice came from the shadows. "You shouldn't have come." Her pulse leapt. "Jun-seok." He stepped forward, thinner, harder. A line of scar tissue ran from his jaw to his collarbone. He looked like a man carved out of consequence. "They said you were dead," she whispered. "Let them keep saying it." His tone was flat. "It's the only reason you're still breathing." She took a shaky breath. "You left a message on my door. Why?" "Because they're not finished. The board replaced my uncle with someone worse." "Who?" He hesitated. "Your mother." The world tilted. "That's impossible. My mother, been dead for 15 years. He shook his head. "She faked it. She's the one who took over your father's network after he vanished. She's been running the shipments ever since." Aisha stumbled back, clutching the wall. "No, she loved us. She loved power more." He showed her the proof. Photographs, wire transfers, security footage. In each, her mother looked ageless, elegant, a ghost made of ambition. "I didn't tell you earlier," Jun-seok said, "because I thought she'd stay hidden once your father died. I was wrong. She's using your name to reopen the trade routes." Aisha felt something cold settle behind her ribs. "Then she's the reason both our fathers died." He nodded once. "And she'll come for you next." They left the temple before dawn, moving through the city's underbelly, safe houses, tunnels, abandoned subways where Jun-seok's people waited like shadows. Every step was another piece of the puzzle sliding into place. At sunrise, they reached an underground hangar beneath Gimpo Airport. His private plane waited, humming quietly. "Where are we going?" she asked. "To Busan again. That's where she's building the new route. And after that," he looked at her, "after that you decide what justice looks like." The flight lasted less than an hour but felt like a lifetime. The coastline appeared below them, steel gray under clouds. As they descended, Aisha's stomach tightened with a sense of déjà vu, the same docks, the same scent of salt and smoke. Inside the warehouse district, they found her. Her mother stood surrounded by crates and men with guns. She turned as they approached, a smile blooming slow and deliberate. "My daughter," she said, voice smooth as wine. "You finally came home." Aisha's throat closed. "Home, you killed father." "I preserved him," the woman said softly. "He was weak. He wanted out. I made sure he stayed part of something greater." Jun-seok lifted his weapon. "You built this empire on corpses." "Empires are built on something," she replied. "Better strangers than our own blood." Aisha stepped forward, voice trembling but fierce. "You destroyed both families. For what? Money, fear." "For you," her mother said simply. "To give you power, to keep you from being another woman begging for scraps. Everything I did was so you'd never kneel." "I didn't want power," Aisha cried. "I wanted peace." "Then you'll die like the rest of them." Her hand flicked. The gunfire began. Jun-seok pulled Aisha behind a cargo container as bullets tore through metal. The sound was deafening, sparks leaping like fireflies. "She has more men," Aisha shouted. "Then we take them fast." His eyes were pure command again, the general behind the gentleman. They moved together, wordless choreography. He fired, she threw a flare into the smoke, blinding the attackers. One by one, the echoes died until only the rain remained. When the smoke cleared, her mother was gone. Jun-seok found her near the water, boarding a speedboat. He aimed, but Aisha grabbed his arm. "Don't, let me." She stepped forward, gun shaking in her hands. "Stop." Her mother turned slowly, wind whipping her hair. "You won't shoot me, you're too much like him." Aisha's tears blurred the world. "Number, I'm nothing like either of you." She fired into the engine. The boat erupted in flame. The blast threw her backward into the water. Jun-seok dove after her, dragging her to shore. When she surfaced, coughing and shaking, the burning wreck drifted out to sea. They watched until it vanished beneath the waves. Later, in a safe house overlooking the harbor, Aisha sat wrapped in a blanket while Jun-seok bandaged her arm. Neither spoke. The silence between them was heavier than any confession. Finally, she said, "I don't know who I am anymore." He tied the last knot gently. "You're the only honest person in a world full of liars. That's who you are." "You think this ends here?" He met her eyes. "It never ends, but maybe it pauses for us." She reached for his hand. "What do we do with a pause?" "We learn to breathe." He pulled her close. For once, the world outside didn't matter. Just rain against windows, the slow heartbeat of two people who'd lost everything but found each other in the wreckage. Weeks passed. Investigations buried the truth under politics. Newspapers called the explosion at the docks an accident. The name Mensah disappeared from every record. Aisha and Jun-seok lived like ghosts in Jeju under new identities. She painted again, this time waves, light, the fragile edges of forgiveness. He fished at dawn, drank at dusk, and sometimes smiled without realizing it. But peace, like glass, is meant to break. One night she returned from the studio to find him on the balcony, a single envelope in his hand. His face was unreadable. "What is it?" she asked. He passed it to her. Inside was a photograph, her mother alive, standing beside a foreign ambassador. Below it, a single sentence, "Trade routes reopened." Seoul's prince still breathing. Aisha's fingers trembled. "It's impossible." Jun-seok's jaw tightened. She always planned for survival. "We can run again," she whispered. "No, we finish it." He turned to her, eyes dark with resolve. "They think we're ghosts, let's haunt them properly." The next day they boarded a cargo ship bound for Manila, the heart of the new network. Disguised as crew, they moved through corridors smelling of oil and salt, their steps in sync like soldiers on borrowed time. At midnight, Aisha found him in the engine room, maps spread across steel. "If we blow the fuel lines here, it ends the shipment chain," he said. "Ends us too," she murmured. He looked up. "Then we end together." She swallowed hard. "Promise me one thing, if I die you keep painting." He smiled, faint and aching. "And if I die, I'll make the world remember you." He reached out, brushed a curl from her face. "You already have." The alarm sounded before she could answer, footsteps pounding above deck. They'd been discovered. "Go," he shouted. "I'm not leaving you." "You'll make it mean something." He pushed her toward the escape ladder. She climbed halfway, looked back, and saw him pull the detonator from his jacket. "Jun-seok, don't you dare." He smiled, rain from the open hatch glinting on his face. "Tell the world truth still burns." Light swallowed everything. Aisha woke on a beach at dawn, waves licking the wreckage around her. Smoke curled on the horizon where the ship had been. Her throat burned from salt and grief. She searched the shoreline until sunset, calling his name until her voice broke. Only the sea answered. When rescue crews found her, she said nothing, just clutched the small notebook he'd left in her coat pocket. Inside were sketches of her face, the final page scrawled with words. "Love is the art we paint on borrowed time. If I'm gone, finish the masterpiece." Months later, a new exhibition opened quietly in Seoul. Its title, Borrowed Time. Every canvas shimmered with stormlight, two figures bound by fire and rain, chasing each other through eternity. Critics called it transcendent. The world called it genius. Only Aisha knew it was a eulogy. During the closing ceremony, a courier delivered a package with no return address. Inside, a small phoenix pendant, still warm to the touch. Beneath it, a note written in his unmistakable hand. "The sea didn't take me. Meet me where it all began." She looked up, eyes filling with impossible hope. Outside, thunder rolled over the Han River. The same river where a lifetime ago, a stranger had offered her his hand and said, "You're bleeding." Now the current whispered his name. Aisha stepped into the rain, heart racing. The city pulsed around her, alive with secrets. Somewhere out there he waited, half myth, half man, all unfinished story. And as she vanished into the storm, the lights of Seoul blinked once, like the world taking a breath before the next chapter.